Hi, everybody. I'm just waiting for Lauren to come back. There she is.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Anaya.
Hey, Lauren.
Hey. It's just such a great honor to have you with us today, Anaya, and such a privilege for me. And there's a huge group of people joining. I can see all your beautiful faces. A lot of you I know from my work with Shakti, and there's some new faces too, so welcome. And yes, Anaya, it's over to you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Okay, thank you so much, Lauren. I'll just do a bit of management here. Okay. So, beloved ladies, maybe there's a few gentlemen on the call, can't see anyone yet. Before we go any further, I would very much like to dedicate our time together to Shakti, knowing that she's with us this evening, and acknowledging that it's because of Shakti and Lauren, obviously, but the catalyst for me being here this evening was Shakti. She very much brought me towards you. So, beloved Shakti, wherever you are, whatever you are, may you rest and lean back and enjoy this next hour along with us. And thank you, Lauren, on the earth plane alongside myself.
Thank you.
Happen.
Thank you.
So, beloved ladies, this evening's call is very much about absorbing, taking in these words, and more importantly, being responsive to how they feel in your body. What I'll do is, I call it going behind the screen, because I can't yet keep my eyes open when I talk in this way. I close my eyes, I rock back and forth like a strange lady, and slowly the words just seem to drip out of my mouth. So the very best thing for you would be to come into some sort of receptive position. This might be lying on your back in Shavasana. It might be lying there with your knees bent. It might be sat there cross-legged. But to be honest, there's nothing really much to see, but everything for you to not only hear, but receive. So as you all keep coming on in, I'll keep on pressing that mute button. Okay, it's looking good. So I will re-emerge in about 45 minutes time to be available if there's any questions. But what I'm hoping is that we go underneath the questioning mind, where what you're about to hear takes you into like a pre-verbal state. And of course, I'm completely available for questions in the coming days. Just send myself or Lauren an email. So I'm going to go behind this screen, coming back in 45 minutes. So, beloved ladies, as you start to sink into your deep and familiar self, closing your eyes, slowing your breath down and just letting go of all the stimulus of the day. This evening we're going to hear a creation myth as spoken by the feminine, and very much drawing the information through from the feminine. The creation myths floating around at the moment are mostly dreamt up by men. So this one could sound a little bit different. The first thing I want to say about Lilith and Eve is that actually they are very, very similar. It is the responsibility of the patriarchy that has caused this massive separation and has fed us this idea that one is very pure and submissive and gentle, and the other one is very wild and dark and sexual. They are that, but the great gaping chasm between the two of them should not exist. I believe this is a very cleverly put together psychic plan so that the feminine is unable to come into her fullness. Whereas the absolute truth of the matter is Eve and Lilith are two sides of the same coin. In truth, beloved ladies, they are a breath away from us. They are falling over themselves to become available to us. But we have 2,000 years worth of very sophisticated conditioning that makes one sickly sweet and the other scary and dangerous. So tonight, beloved ladies, let us unravel the truth about what is rightfully ours. Tonight we shall be exposed to a feminine reality. I'm going to tell you two stories. Let your body reveal to you which one is true. With all of these Gnostic stories, it is important for you to know that you are only to keep what feels true and to absolutely discard the rest. The first story, as the patriarchy would have us believe. Once upon a time, there was the first man, and his name was Adam. And he was lonely, and he longed for a companion. And so the ones who made Adam made woman. And that first woman was Lilith. Lilith was equally Adam's companion. She matched him on every single level. She was spirited, individual, independent. Needed nothing from Adam, but he needed something from her. All was well in the Garden of Eden for a certain amount of time. And then the beginnings of a dispute came into being. There was friction. There was argumentation. Dark emotions were brewing. And the beginnings of the male and female fight began to birth. There was a power struggle. Lilith left the Garden of Eden with a little bit of a fuck you attitude. She could see that the plan was not being lived, that Adam was getting a little bit above himself. And so she left. She went to the edge of the Red Sea and started to have a good time. When 3 angels were sent to her from the heavens, asking Lilith to come back to the garden. As this was God's orders, she had made a promise to seed humanity to be the first woman. Lilith complained to the angels, saying that Adam would not consider her to be on top in lovemaking, that he wanted it only in the missionary position. And she sensed that a power struggle was coming between them. She said, until that is rectified, until Adam is put back in his place, she's not going back to the garden. And so the 3 angels went back to God and reported what Lilith had said. The angels returned to Lilith and said, God is not going to interfere with Adam, and God says if you continue to stay out of the Garden of Eden, God is going to make you barren. You shall be alone and not bear fruit for the remainder of existence. What is your choice, Lilith? And Lilith said, I'm not going back. And so God made another woman. And this one was called Eve. And she was kind and gentle and pure and submissive. And this one came from Adam's rib. She was made of him. And she was subservient and passive, tender and loving. And this worked much better for Adam, and they made humanity. And of course, Eve, in her weakness, perhaps, her lack of discernment, her inferior spirit, was tormented by a serpent in the garden, and she mistakenly, with great naivety, bit into the apple, and the pair of them fell from grace, and all their children were flawed. And here we are, flawed humans, carrying the original sin in our beingness. The end. That is the insidious, cruel, poisonous venom that the patriarchy has fed us, and we have believed this. Maybe not so much our generation, but our parents, grandparents, and back for sure. So, beloved ladies, let us hear another version of that story. Please believe me when I say I am not making this up from superficial, idealistic fantasy thinking. These words are coming from a deep scrutiny of being, plenty of dark nights of the soul, and unspeakable grace. Once upon a time, there was a creature who was being called Adam. He was being intended to be the first man. The Garden of Eden was a corner of existence being fashioned by rulers or influences. And these influences were trying to create life. They were getting close to being able to create, but they were falling short because they did not know how to imbue spirit into flesh. They could create flesh, no problem. But as for bringing down that divine spark, that was something they couldn't do. The Great Mother was looking down at this experimental phase with great concern. She was not happy that this kind of experimentation was going on. And so she sent an aspect of herself to get a closer point of view. That first part was Lilith. Lilith came into the garden to get to know Adam and to see exactly what was going on in this little cordoned off section. She was the serpent, watching, examining, gleaning, understanding, watchful, discerning, shape-shifting, taking in what was happening, unafraid, powerful, stealth-like, victorious, free, wild. Lilith tried to interact with Adam, but he was quite simply a clod of clay. He was still simply a creature, no identity, no form, no backbone as such. There was nothing there that interested Lilith. And so she withdrew into becoming a tree. She decided to stay in the garden as an observer. And later, a catalyst. She reported back to the mother what she saw. And the mother sent forth a second being, Zoe, who is also known as Eve. Zoe, or Eve, was carrying the divine spark. Eve is the virgin, but a virgin light power, an incredible force of pure Shakti. When she saw Adam in his creature status, she had tremendous compassion for him, and she breathed the breath of life into Adam. Her purity, her compassion, her tenderness, none of these things being seen as weakness or passivity, but fierce and wild love. She breathed the breath of life into him because her mother gave her the ability to do such a thing. And Adam rose up. And now he is alive. Her purity and grace birthed him. As they got to know one another, and indeed now started to create the lineage of humans, Lilith once again stepped forward. And quite simply said, "Beloveds, you are existing only in a corner of reality. This corner has been fashioned to keep you incredibly safe. It is a very comfortable existence, but it is not reality. Now, if you feel you have developed enough trust and consciousness in one another, and you want to know yourself and what is beyond this false place, then maybe you would consider biting into this apple. And Eve looked at Adam and said, "Well, I'm ready." And he said, "So am I." And they bit. And all that was keeping the Garden of Eden visible to them started to dissolve and fall to pieces. And the true reality of existence was exposed to them. This is the end of that second story. This quality of Eve and Lilith working so closely together, so fearlessly unafraid of each other, non-judging, but simply operating as two sides of the same and one coin, is what the patriarchy has not wanted us to remember. The patriarchy has made Lilith be some kind of succubus, some kind of female demon who preys on man, that terrifies women because of her enormous sexual presence, makes us judge other women if we suspect that they are Lilith incarnate, or the other way round, makes the Liliths amongst us very judgmental of the Eves, seeing them as stupid and weak and fuzzy-headed. And the patriarchy is rubbing its hands, smiling, sickly, saying, yeah, we've worked well on this one. And it's not just the ladies who are suffering from this schism. The men have it too. They cannot comprehend that Eve and Lilith can be in the same woman. It is incomprehensible that their beautiful, stable, loving, family-orientated wife could have a wild side, and the one that they're fantasizing having an affair with can also be incredibly loving, safe, and stable. And this is the sick game that has been forced down our necks. Lilith is not predominantly ridiculously sexual. Lilith is fierce, life presence in action. She is voice, she is confrontation, she is truth-telling, she is whistleblowing, she is table-turning, ass-kicking, catalyzing, initiatory, truth-bringing to earth. And Eve is an unspeakable form of vulnerability and humility and tenderness that is not weak. we may not even actually know what Eve is, because it is not blonde-haired, blue-eyed passivity. It is not the safe little housewife with her apron. It is an exquisite form of humility and vulnerability and fragility that is equal to Lilith's fierceness. And beloved ladies, our duty is to throw open every single door that has tried to block this in us, and simply overthrow the conditioning that says we cannot be neither of these faces of the feminine. Because at the moment, our face is a mask. We're neither Lilith nor Eve. Or we have swung into some kind of polarity where we only live one, kind of, and we absolutely forbid the other. Let us not be afraid of the gentleness and the compassion and the ability to feel the fucked upness of this world and every creature living on it and in it and around it. Let us have our hearts be utterly opened by the devastation that is happening. And let us also have something to say about that, and to challenge our families and our educational systems and our work systems. I would say that Lilith, in her luxury, when she's got time on her hands, is the femme fatale and the seductress and the dominatrix. But that's not all she is. When there is a crisis happening within creation, she has more to offer than just her sexual force. This call, beloved ladies, is to invite you to be outspoken and wild and simply not care about anybody's opinion, anybody's judgment, anyone's humiliation, but to make good ground on your homecoming to Lilith, to go in and to find that wild spirit, the serpent. We have to be as wise as a serpent and as innocent as a dove. This is the words of Mary Magdalene. She's talking about Lilith and Eve. I believe in the arena of lovemaking is one of the realms where we can find union, real union with Lilith and Eve. Because that's the only place us willings are willing to let go, unfortunately and fortunately, because it's quite a great place to let go in. The patriarchy has made us tight like a spring, little running around like Stepford wives, all buttoned up and proper and unable to let go. But in the love-making arena, there is a possibility we could let go. And we could bring those two together as one. Of course, there are other avenues in life, wild dancing. I haven't done the plant medicine, so I cannot authentically say whether that's another realm. Could be, sounds like it, but I do not know for sure. Wild dancing, yes. Theatre and dressing up, yes. Sexuality, yes. Vision questing, yes. If we are spiritual ladies trying to be very pure and meditative and keeping up with our yogic practice and never, ever, ever losing our temper, never getting wild, definitely not getting too emotional, wearing white all day long and praying and always being this perfect picture of grace, this is not authenticity. And if we're running around in black PVC and red lipstick and high heels and being badass every day and upsetting the apple cart and causing a sensation, this is not authenticity. When we're willing to go out there on a limb and call a spade because we know there's a freaking elephant in the room, we know there's a lie going on around here. And when we can let our beloved ones in way past our defenses and control mechanisms, and we're willing to open our heart, and we're more than willing to be hurt, and we're more than willing to be vulnerable and to feel pain, now we're being what the Creator designed us to be. And so as I come full circle with this call, I really want to press upon you the essential importance of really going in and demanding access to the real Eve and the real Lilith that we are carrying. And to step into that arena of inner marriage. When we give ourselves the permission and the blessing then we will be woman in her fullness. And then we will be able to birth this new world that is very, very close to self-annihilation. The feminine is the birthing and destroying agent. So, beloved ladies, you're going to have a copy of this call really soon. With this level of material, it goes in to your deep mind, and then your own soul will start unraveling it and putting it in place and order in a way that will sit comfortably in your own being. And this, I have found, happens during the nighttime. So my great suggestion is, just as you get into bed tonight, refresh yourself with everything that's been shared. Go to your sacred space on the inside and pray to yourself for deeper understanding. And you will probably have a very lucid night of waking and sleeping, and all sorts of revelations coming in. So it's a very good idea to have a notebook and pen beside the bed. Because I have finished talking, but the one who has prompted me to talk is going to carry on the conversation with you one-to-one. That's a promise. If there's anyone with a question, I'm here. I can see there's some chats. Oh yes, I have. I have a question for you, Naya, about guilt.
Ooh. Hi, Anaya, it's Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
It was my question. Thank you so much for that, by the way. That was amazing. Yeah. My question for you is, so as women, we are taught to feel guilt about so much.
Yes.
Feeling guilty whether we're doing something for ourselves or not for ourselves, feeling guilty for being sexual or not being sexual, feeling guilty for, I don't know, if we don't want to have sex with our partner, then we feel guilt around that and shame. You know, and just general this lifestyle of guilt around being a woman, and there's so many things that we have to be guilty for. And I was wondering how you dealt with that, and if you've got any tips, because that's definitely something that plays a lot in my life.
What I do is, when the guilt comes, I pay attention to it. I feel it in my body. I'm burping away now because this is just how I am. I feel it in my body, mostly my belly, and I literally go to the place I've just been in. Obviously, my personality's back now. I go to the place where that transmission came from. I get as close as I can get to the genuine Lilith that I know her to be, and I literally take the energy of the guilt and place it on the altar.
Yeah.
And I strike up an intimate relationship with Lilith, and I say, Lilith, here is guilt. Here is some more of my guilt. And I don't try and have an intellectual conversation with her. And I say, in as much humility as possible, please help me heal. And it's very beautiful, it's very vulnerable. And I guess it's me being pretty humble at this point. If I try and do a new age spin on the guilt with some sort of technique, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But if I actually go to genuine prayer and just bring it to her, then grace comes. But for me, it needs to be a bodily experience. If it's up here in the mind, it's not real.
Yeah, so I find like I overanalyze it in the mind. So that's probably why it's not working. The mind is too active.
Yeah. Get to the guilt as quickly as possible with your own ability to feel, your ability to breathe, amp it up, because here is Lilith in action. Lilith is not afraid of feeling guilty. Hell no. She wants to get into your human body and help you release the guilt. So let her in. And of course, it feels disgusting. It's horrible. But here is how that sacred union works. So Lilith is the part of you available to feel the sickness of feeling guilt. And Eve is the part of us that's willing to pray with great humility and rawness and literally on our knees and cry out, help. That's the two of them working together as one. Don't be afraid of your emotions, beloved ladies. Don't be afraid. They got a beginning, a middle, and an end. Once you're in, boom, it's relatively swift. The delay is the skirting around of the emotion. Shall I, shan't I? Shall I, shan't I? Use your wild spirit. Use Lilith. Get into the epicenter of the guilt and then turn to Eve. Be humble and pray, and grace will come.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. We've got a bit of a group watching today. So I don't know if anybody else had any questions, but thank you so much, Anaya. That was incredible. Thank you for answering that for me.
Well, it's going to go much further than this. When you get into bed tonight, hold on. The PA is going to go deeper still. And if you feel like it, I would love to hear your reports.
I will definitely report back for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to close off now, upload the video and email it to you, Lauren, probably in about 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you to everybody that came. I could feel so much your energy in the group and in this beautiful full moon, and just the grace of our beloved Shakti, who is gone, but I know that's with us in this moment. And thank you so much, Anaya, for your wisdom and your grace, and just for doing this for me. I really appreciate it. So much love. Thank you.
Oh, bless you, Lauren. Thank you for making this happen. Goodbye, ladies.
Bye, everyone.